The story of woman with female children. Aisha and her husband, Ahmed, were deeply in love and had a beautiful wedding surrounded by friends and family. They started their life together with high hopes and dreams, and Aisha quickly became pregnant with their first child. However, their joy was short-lived as they discovered that their first child was a girl. Initially, Ahmed was happy and showered their daughter with love and attention. But as the years went by and Aisha continued to give birth to one girl after another, Ahmed's attitude began to change. He started to show signs of disappointment and frustration, often comparing himself to his friends and family members who had sons. Aisha tried to reassure Ahmed that their daughters were just as precious and valuable, but he couldn't shake off the feeling that he needed a son to carry on his legacy. The pressure mounted, and Aisha felt like she was failing her husband. Despite her best efforts, Aisha gave birth to 8 beautiful daughters, but Ahmed's disappointment only grew. He started to distance himself from Aisha and their children, and their once happy home was now filled with tension and sadness. Aisha was torn between her love for her husband and her desire to please him, and her own self-worth and the value she placed on their beautiful daughters. She wondered if she would ever be able to find a way to reconcile their differences and restore the love and harmony they once shared. Will Aisha and Ahmed be able to find a way to resolve their issues and appreciate the blessings they have, or will their quest for a male heir continue to drive them apart? As time went on, Ahmed's behavior became increasingly cold and distant. He would often leave the house without saying where he was going or when he would return, leaving Aisha and their daughters feeling anxious and uncertain. Aisha tried everything she could think of to win back her husband's love and attention. She cooked his favorite meals, dressed up for him, and even tried to initiate conversations about his interests. But no matter what she did, Ahmed seemed to grow more and more disinterested. One day, Ahmed came home from work and announced that he wanted to take a second wife, one who could give him the son he so desperately desired. Aisha was devastated. She felt like she had failed her husband and that he no longer valued their relationship or their beautiful daughters. The tension in the house became unbearable, and Aisha's daughters began to feel the effects of their father's rejection. They started to act out at school and at home, seeking attention and affirmation from their mother and anyone else who would give it to them. Aisha was at a loss for what to do. She felt like she was losing her husband and her children, and she didn't know how to stop the downward spiral. She began to question her own worth and value as a woman and a mother, wondering if she was somehow to blame for Ahmed's behavior. As the days turned into weeks, Aisha realized that she had a choice to make. She could continue to try to change Ahmed's mind and win back his love, or she could focus on her own healing and find a way to move forward with her life, with or without her husband. What will Aisha decide to do next? Will she find a way to save her marriage, or will she choose to forge a new path forward, one that prioritizes her own happiness and well-being? Aisha's selfless decision. Aisha made the difficult decision to put her children first, determined to fill the gap left by their father's absence. She knew it wouldn't be easy, but she was willing to do whatever it took to ensure her daughters felt loved, supported, and valued. With a newfound sense of purpose, Aisha threw herself into her role as a mother. She attended every school event, sports game, and recital, cheering her daughters on with pride. She helped them with their homework, listened to their problems, and offered guidance and support whenever they needed it. As the days turned into weeks, Aisha noticed a change in her daughters. They seemed happier, more confident, and more secure. They began to thrive in school and in their extracurricular activities, and their behavior at home improved dramatically. Aisha's friends and family noticed the change in her too. She seemed stronger, more resilient, and more determined than ever before. They admired her dedication to her children and her refusal to give up on them, even in the face of adversity. As Aisha focused on her children, she began to heal from the wounds of her failing marriage. She realized that she didn't need Ahmed's validation to be a good mother or a worthy person. She was enough, just as she was, and her children loved and appreciated her for who she was. With time, Aisha's daughters grew into strong, independent young women, each with their own unique talents and personalities. They never forgot the sacrifices their mother made for them, and they always looked up to her as a role model and a source of inspiration. Aisha's story spread throughout the community, a testament to the power of a mother's love and determination. She proved that even in the darkest of times, there is always hope, and that with courage and resilience, anything is possible. The father's change of heart. Years had passed since Ahmed had left his family, and Aisha had successfully raised their 8 daughters into strong, independent women. They had all graduated from university, started their careers, and were living their own lives. Ahmed, now an old man, had spent years reflecting on his past mistakes. He realized too late that he had been blinded by his desire for a son and had neglected the precious gifts he had in his daughters. He had missed out on watching them grow up, on guiding them, and on being a part of their lives. Filled with regret and longing, Ahmed set out to find his daughters and make amends. He searched far and wide, finally tracking them down to their respective homes and workplaces. The daughters, now successful women, were shocked to see their father standing before them, his eyes filled with tears and his heart full of remorse. They had thought they had long forgotten him, but the memories came flooding back. Ahmed begged for their forgiveness, acknowledging his mistakes and expressing his desire to be a part of their lives once again. He was met with a mix of emotions. The daughters were angry and hurt. Aisha, who had single-handedly raised their daughters, was also confronted by Ahmed's sudden desire to return to their lives. She was wary of his intentions, but also saw the genuine remorse in his eyes. The daughters stand. Despite Ahmed's pleas for forgiveness and his desire to make amends, the daughters refused to welcome him back into their lives. They had grown up without a father, and Aisha had been their rock, their confidant, and their guiding light. The daughters felt that Ahmed's absence had been a blessing in disguise, as it had allowed them to grow strong and independent without his toxic influence. They had learned to rely on each other and on their mother, and they didn't need him now. "We don't need you, father," one of the daughters said, her voice firm but trembling with emotion. "We've done just fine without you. You had your chance to be a part of our lives, and you blew it." The other daughters nodded in agreement, their faces set in determination. Ahmed's face fell, and he realized that he had underestimated the depth of their hurt and anger. Aisha, who had been watching the scene unfold, stepped forward and placed a gentle hand on Ahmed's shoulder. "My dear husband," she said, her voice soft but firm. "You had your chance to be a part of our lives, and you chose to leave. Now it's too late. Our daughters are grown, and they don't need you. It's time for you to move on." Ahmed's eyes filled with tears as he realized that he had lost his chance to be a part of his family's life. He nodded slowly, understanding that he had brought this upon himself. With a heavy heart, he turned and walked away, leaving behind the family he had once abandoned. The second wife's children, a disappointment. Ahmed's second wife, whom he had hoped would bring him the sons he so desperately desired, finally gave birth to 2 boys. However, his joy was short-lived, as the boys grew up to be unfocused, lazy, and utterly uninterested in their father's business or legacy. Despite Ahmed's best efforts to teach them the ways of the world and instill in them a sense of responsibility, the boys showed no aptitude for anything except squandering their father's wealth and bringing shame to the family name. Ahmed was crestfallen, realizing that his quest for a son had been a mistake. He had sacrificed his relationship with his first wife and their 8 daughters, only to be left with 2 useless sons who cared nothing for his legacy or well-being. The second wife, who had once seemed so alluring and promising, now reveled in Ahmed's misery, her true nature revealed. Ahmed was left alone, surrounded by the ruins of his own making. The end. If you like my story, please like and subscribe. Thank you.